Ladies and gentlemen, I'm the one and only DJ Storms. Welcome back to the channel here on YouTube.com. Happy Friday, ladies and gentlemen. I hope everyone has been staying safe, staying healthy, washing your hands, all that other good stuff. Crazy week it has been. It is April now. March finally ended. Seems as though March was going to continue on forever. It's probably one of the longest Marches I could recently remember. Thank you to everyone who wished me a happy birthday yesterday. I greatly appreciate it. Crazy, I didn't think I'd be turning 21 during a pandemic, but, you know, expect the unexpected. Expect the unexpected when it comes to the modern world. A couple things before we get started here. Of course, follow me on Twitter at HistoryMakerDJS. Follow me on Instagram and Periscope at TheDJStorms, and add me on Facebook. All the links are in the description. Me and Thunder have been quarantined. We have been quarantined. We don't know what to do. And we were pondering in isolation a couple days ago. That video is in the description as well. Also, the rundown for WrestleMania 36 with Mr. Joseph Conlin is also up on the channel. Link is in the description. The quality was a little glitchy. I believe it was an issue on my part with the Wi-Fi being a little shitty as far as the connection goes. Of course, you guys know I always call my guests on Skype and I record on my iPhone. Because again, I'm not making a living off of this. I'm just doing this because I love to do it. The rundown for WrestleMania 36, that link is in the description. WrestleMania 36 Night 1 is actually tomorrow. So I'm going to get everything set for that. I'm not doing a Lightning Flash update. Tomorrow. I'm really just looking to relax. I'm currently on a leave from work due to my weak immune system and that being compromised. I'm just looking to relax with my family tomorrow. I'm going to have a nice Italian dinner. I'm going to chill, talk to my grandmother, talk to my parents, my sisters. Just relax, try and take my mind off of everything. I know this time is only getting more and more stressful as the weeks go by. But I'm going to try and decompress, and then I'll be back towards the note-taking when WrestleMania starts. I believe they're doing a pre-show for both nights starting at 6, which is kind of fucking stupid, but then again, this is the WWE we're talking about. But regardless, I will be back towards the normal note-taking. Thank you to everyone who's been tuning into my videos. If you missed the Lightning Flash update from last week with the Blue Riot, creator of the Blue Riot podcast, shout out to him. Link is also in the description. Check all of that out. For collaborations and business inquiries, please send me an email, StormsTakeOver@gmail.com. Of course, like the official DJ Storms business page, link in the description, and I just might send you an invite to join the official DJ Storms Posse group on Facebook. But the first Dark Side of the Ring review for Chris Benoit did very, very, very well. That almost did 200 views, over 20 likes, so big thank you to everyone who watched that one. I greatly appreciate it. It's something that I don't normally do. I don't normally go off the top of my head when it comes to topics related to professional wrestling. Again, I always say I'm usually a very organized individual, but considering how well that did, I think I'm going to make that a reoccurring thing, and I do really think that Dark Side of the Ring is going to get a lot of press in this season. I think that they have been doing some great stuff so far. I watched the entire season 1, all 6 episodes. I'm going to continue to watch the episodes from here on out going forward. This one was about one New Jack. Dark Side of the Ring, the life and crimes of New Jack, who was a very popular wrestler during the peak of ECW. Again, I said it last time, the blueprint for a wrestling documentary, you look towards Dark Side of the Ring, the producers, the director, everything that goes into Dark Side of the Ring is picture perfect. And I love everything that they present, and I love how they do cutscenes where they reenact it with actors in the background. We had a lot of ECW legends in there. We had D'Lo Brown in there. We had the Sandman in there. It was narrated by Chris Jericho. We had Tiny the Terrible, who was involved in the mass transit incident We had New Jack himself. I was incredibly blown away by the upbringing of Jerome Young and how he had to deal with an abusive father and how he was an alcoholic and he stabbed his mother, shot her in the back of the leg, and how that really translated into his in-ring persona and how he almost became lost in his character. And more likely than not, it's always wrestlers in that time period, in my eyes, that always seem to be lost in their characters, because back then people actually believed that it was real and what you saw in the ring was actually how those people were. And yes, to a certain extent, New Jack may have been a throwback to the old school heels, especially in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Jim Cornette was also in there as well. Jim Cornette's definitely become a staple as far as Dark Side of the Ring goes. The things that he's been through has been insane in its own right. They definitely worked out really well in Smoky Mountain Wrestling, taking on the Rock and Roll Express and the ideas that they incorporated into their gimmick. So much so that there was literally people being held back by police cars wanting to get at them. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy when you look back on it. When they made that jump to ECW, and I heard about the mass transit incident, I was rather shocked, and it really does serve as a lesson for those in the professional wrestling industry. You don't lie about your age when you're trying to put forth an effort in an industry like that, especially with a promotion like ECW. And a lot of people may be wondering, oh my God, how can these people get away with it? The main issue here with material like that, especially for an underground promotion like ECW, and you're wondering how New Jack and all these guys like New Jack got away with pretty much beating people within an inch of their lives in ECW, mainly because of the simple fact that nothing was off the table back then. It was almost a society with no rules back then. You got the drug use, obviously, him snorting a line of coke before every single match. The main issue back then, you always have to remember, is the fact that there was no merch sales back then. There was no such thing as sponsorships. There was no such thing as these lucrative television deals, especially for a promotion like ECW. ECW really relied on the fact that they had to generate as much of a buzz as possible for people to buy tickets to their next shows. Every single show that they had, the wrestlers pretty much had to go out there and cause as much chaos and anarchy as possible, to a point where people want to see more of that they buy tickets to the next show. The revenue for a company like ECW, the revenue for the wrestlers that worked for companies like ECW back then, it all came from ticket sales. And I was talking to my dad. Me and my dad, we've been watching Dark Side of the Ring. He's actually the one that got me into it. We were talking about back then when his generation was young and they used to go to concerts, and how you would buy merch from the band on that day of the concert. There was none of these other stores like Hot Topic, and there was no stores around the mall that you would go to. It would only be from the band at that time. And then once the band would go away, then you could never get those t-shirts again until they came back. So in a sense, it was kind of similar to what ECW did back in the day. And as far as Eric Kulash goes, now I certainly don't agree. I certainly don't agree with the extent that New Jack would take the festivities in the ring to. I certainly don't agree with that. I'm certainly not supporting New Jack's actions, but when it comes to a situation like the mass transit incident, you really should not bullshit about your age when it comes to that type of material, because it could really lead to something that could ultimately ruin your entire life. And Eric Kulash pretty much asked for it. He really did ask for it. And I was actually shocked myself that New Jack was able to avoid 20, 25, 30 years worth of jail time. And that was just that one incident. That was just that one incident. The Vic Grimes incident, that really caught me off guard. And it really is an unwritten rule in pro wrestling when you do hurt someone to check up on them. And to a certain extent, I can understand New Jack's frustrations with Vic Grimes and how they were on top of that scaffold in the original match, and they dove and they fell off of the scaffold together, and Vic Grimes landed right on top of New Jack's skull, and New Jack's skull was cracked, and he still gets headaches to this day. He still has problems. He still has pains. All this type of material, and I do understand the frustration. With Vic Grimes not even calling New Jack at any time between the first match and the second match, spamming over a year. And I understand his frustrations. Now, I would not take it to the extent where I would try and throw the guy out of the ring and kill the guy. But I do understand his frustrations there. Especially when it comes to a guy like that, and a guy that is snorting a line of coke before every single match, and a guy with a rough upbringing like New Jack had, taking that to the ring. You really have to be cautious when you're working with a guy like that. You really have to be cautious when you're working with a guy like that, especially in that era. You know, you'd never be able to get away with this shit now. Because, again, back then, nothing was off the table. It was pretty much, guys like that, they were pretty much operating their careers on generate buzz and generate ticket sales at any and all costs. The Gypsy Joe incident, that was actually, that was rather interesting. I've never heard of Gypsy Joe. First off, I don't think anyone should be wrestling at 72 years old. I don't think anyone should be wrestling. No matter how good a shape you're in at 72, no matter if you're feeling like you're 35 at 72 years old, please, you should not be wrestling till you're 72. Especially with an incident like that. Especially in an incident like that. The thing that really caught me off guard is how William Jason Lane was pretty much tempting fate there. He was pretty much tempting fate with New Jack, and how New Jack took a Wolverine claw and stabbed the guy about 9 times. And then the crazier thing about it is, and here's how crazy the people back then really were. Guy called him while he was in jail. He was going to face 15 years worth of jail time. And he said, I'll drop the charges. Let's make it into an angle. I've never heard of something like that in my entire life. I've absolutely never heard of something like that in my entire life. This was actually the first time I'm hearing about New Jack. And holy shit. It's something that you'd never expect. It really is something that you would never expect when it comes to pro wrestling. And like I said again, back then there were pretty much no limits. Generate revenue at any and all cost. It's just like the last time, I'm pretty much at a loss of words. I really am pretty much at a loss of words right now. I don't really know what to say as far as the incident goes. When it comes to stories like this, you really are blown away. You really are blown away because you don't necessarily know how someone could do something like that and do the things that he would do, jumping off of 20, 30-foot balconies and 40-foot scaffolds, bleeding every single night. It was a rather insane time back then. It was a rather insane time back then with ECW and with their demise coming by the end of the late 90s, early 2000s. Do I think New Jack should have gone to WWE? No. No. And I think that, in my honest opinion, WWE did make the right decision not signing New Jack, because I just don't think that he would fit the mold of WWE, even though they were pretty much in a transition stage, and during that time, yes, they were a rather violent company, but at the same point in time, they did not have the global stage, or ECW didn't have the global stage that WWE had, and I feel as though if New Jack got on that type of global stage, it would have really raised some questions. It would have really raised some questions. It would have really gotten WWE a lot of bad publicity in a way. And this is the one thing that a lot of people need to realize when it comes to established companies. If you're a company like ECW, then and only then can you focus on the motto of any type of publicity is good publicity. Because when you're looking for publicity, if you're an up-and-coming company, if you're a company like ECW was back then, you want to get as much publicity as possible to get to that stage of being established. And when you are established, then you can focus on putting out the right material and getting the right publicity. And I'd actually like to compare this to what goes on now with the WWE and how people would use the excuse of, oh, you're getting a reaction, WWE's getting a reaction out of you, any type of publicity is good publicity, and this is where WWE now really is failing, because of the simple fact that they think that just because they're getting reactions, that means that they're doing something right, which is far from the truth. Far from the truth. The WWE is an established company to a point where they don't need to just focus on reactions. When you are an established company, now you need to focus on getting the correct reactions and getting the correct feedback, because the more negative feedback you get in an established position like the WWE, the more you will suffer. And that really was showcased this past Monday on Raw, when the Raw ratings dropped under 2 million. It was 1.923, I believe. And that is a product of WWE simply not caring. Simply not caring and just doing things for the sake of, oh, we're getting a reaction and we're WWE. That's just a little side topic there, but I thought the overall documentary for New Jack was excellent. I thought that was excellent. I did appreciate New Jack being interviewed, and I do see the more humane side of New Jack. I do see the humane side of the guy. I do see Jerome Young in a sense. Again, a guy with a rough upbringing, and a guy that snorts a line of coke before every match. Obviously, you're going to get lost in your character, and you're going, the line is really going to get blurred. As Jim Cornette says, a lot of lines in professional wrestling are blurred, and sometimes you can't really do too much about it. It really is tough to distinguish a lot of things when it comes to professional wrestling, especially back then. Again, you would not be able to get away with 2% of the material that they got away with back then in today's world. But overall, I thought the documentary was excellent. I thought they did an excellent job at explaining the story. I think they did an excellent job at gathering all the possible statistics that they could possibly gather. And I think that Dark Side of the Ring hit it out of the park yet again. And I will be watching next week, supposedly next week, April 7th, I believe. They're doing one on Jimmy Snuka, if I'm not mistaken. That one I'm very much looking forward to. That one I believe is going to get a lot of press, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing what the Jimmy Snuka one has to offer. But ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up this review for Dark Side of the Ring, The Life and Crimes of New Jack. I would like to thank each and every single one of you who tuned into this video. I greatly appreciate it. Be sure to hit that thumbs up. Try and get this video to 20 thumbs up. I don't think it's going to do as good as the Chris Benoit one, but we're going to attempt to. I would say 20 thumbs up is the goal. Be sure to leave a comment down below. What did you think of the documentary if you watched it? What are your thoughts on New Jack? What are your thoughts on the events that took place back then? Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already done so. I know the progression is slow. The progression is very, very slow. We're trying to get to 2K. I know it's a tough time. But I've been busting my ass, people. I know a lot of people have been staying home. They've been relaxing. They have been self-quarantining. So, just come on. Do me that favor. Hit that subscribe button. Tell your friends. Tell your family members. Tell everyone about me. And, of course, hit that notifications bell with a huge coup de grace. That way you will know whenever I pop up on YouTube. Because whenever I pop up on YouTube, it's the best time to be on YouTube. Always got to throw that in there. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm DJ Storm. This has been Dark Side of the Ring, Life and Crimes of New Jack review. And I will see you next week. I will probably upload the rewind for WrestleMania. I'm not going to do a night 1 and night 2. I'm going to do just one review collectively on WrestleMania. That should be up on either Monday or Tuesday. I will keep you guys posted. Of course, follow all my social medias. The links are in the descriptions. I will keep you guys posted on each and every single one of them. Of course, next Wednesday, Quarantine with Thunder Part 2 comes out. Episode number 2 comes out. Keep your eye out for that. And ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have a great weekend. You enjoy WrestleMania. I will be live tweeting for both nights of WrestleMania. Thank you guys so much. As per usual, you guys have a great weekend. And of course, stay safe.